Hey everyone, this is the Ghost Set Killer with Put 'em on the Glass podcast. And today's guest is
I am Jacques Navant with Don's Mobile Glass, Frog It Out Tools, and the sitting president of the Autoglass Safety Council. Thanks for having me.
you're very welcome, sir. This is a good one for me. Like almost all of my guests are, but this one's a really good one for me too, because you and I have known each other for a minute and we converse outside of our normal duties. Congratulations on the sitting president thing. Touch on how much that meant to you to be looked at as one of our industry leaders to be chosen for such a prestigious position.
Oh boy, I tell you what, it was almost surreal that I thought somebody was pranking me. Like, what do I know about being president? So it's just a huge honor, and I'll try my hardest not to screw it up.
Oh, I'm sure you won't do that. From sitting on the ADAS committee with you, I understand 100% that you will not screw this up. I think this was, in my opinion, humble opinion, this was the best choice of a transition that there could have been because I see
Thank you.
nobody more deserving than you in this.
Thank you very much. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah. And I've told you privately, and I'll tell you publicly now, I look to you and you're my go to on assurance if what I'm thinking or doing is right when it comes to calibration or something like that. Like if I have an uh-oh moment and I have gotten a couple different opinions, you're usually the tiebreaker for me because that's I respect you that much when it comes to this whole game we call Autoglass.
Well, thank you. That means the world to me. I really appreciate that.
Okay, so let's dive into this shit. Let's get to the nitty of the gritty. All right, man. Hard stops. If someone gets these DTCs before, let's say pre-scan, pre taking the windshield out. What are the hard stop codes for Jacques Navant?
Well, so to put this in perspective, this is a pretty big deal, and it's growing into a bigger and bigger deal. Like smog shops, I'm based out of California. Smog shops in California right now are transitioning to where they have to scan each vehicle um, for problems before they'll even smog a car. So this is becoming a reality, not just in the auto glass space, but in every maintenance space we can possibly think of. So a hard stop for the glass side of it would be any camera failures, because that means you might have to invest, you or your customer, however that goes down, will have to invest in some hardware. So that would be a hard stop for me.
So is there any other ones like pertaining to because like you'll see continuous memory, you'll see past, you'll see current. There's all kinds of different lingos with these DTCs. Is any of the steering components or braking components a hard stop for Jacques?
No, we're kind of a different animal though. We outfit our shops. We have separate calibration stations that are outfitted with alignment racks and everything that we can do in-house to correct almost everything that could go wrong. So my company, that wouldn't be a hard stop if you're a single guy in a truck or even a two or three person shop. Then some of those would be hard stops. You might have to enlist the help of a local alignment shop or whatever the case. There's 100 million different things that can possibly go wrong.
Okay. Because let's face it, in my opinion, and I'm not sure if you share this, but I think so. Um, you're going to be left behind if you're not at least attempting these. And if you're not doing full statics, you at least need to have a tablet to provide a pre and post scan because you can charge for those, but it also leaves you less liable if there's a camera issue when they do send it for calibration. You're like, look, I have a pre scan. So I think at least as a shop, you're going to at least have to have a tablet sometime soon. You're going to be left behind, right?
I agree. To put it in perspective, the way, and again, I would never impose the way my company does things on anybody else, but what we do as company best practice is to pre and post scan every vehicle. So even if we're just doing a chip repair, we're still going to pre and post scan that, because I look at it as our obligation to the customer to keep them safe first and foremost. And we're kind of giving them a roadmap on the health of their vehicle, which is, I think, an added value, and it helps me and my team sleep at night knowing we're releasing a completely safe vehicle, even if we did a chip repair.
Okay. So do you charge for that?
No, believe it or not, we're crazy.
That's awesome. I mean, it is complimentary. I did hear you say that, but I wanted to make sure that people understand that you can upcharge for that a little bit if that's your business model.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and that's why everybody's in business is to try and make revenue. We just chose just as peace of mind for our customers and for us that we're releasing a completely safe vehicle.
That's yeah. And much respect to you for that. But I do believe that we are going to need as an industry, you're at least going to need to you're going to need to carry a tablet. 100%.
Oh, yeah, yeah. There shouldn't be a mobile truck or van out there without a scan tool. There shouldn't be a shop without a scan tool. It's part of our industry. We're married to it. When this stuff first started, you sat in some of the very heated committee meetings. There was a sect group of in our industry that wanted to keep it separated, where this isn't a glass guy's obligation. He shouldn't be doing this, but I think there's no escaping it. These cars aren't going to get any simpler. They're going to get more and more complicated. So you got to have a scan tool. That's just
Yeah.
part of the business.
Yeah, at bare minimum, you got to have a scan tool, even if you're subbing out your calibration work. So you might not have the ADAS software, but you at least need to invest $1,000 or so into a scan tool to waive some of that liability when you're sending it to that other third party.
Uh,
Here's my problem with the third party, Jacques. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, and also enlighten me a little bit. Our operating procedures are like yours. We test drive to make sure how the functionality is. We pre-scan, we change the windshield, we do the calibration, we test drive, we post scan. That's our operating procedures. You change the windshield, then you send it down the road to that company. That company doesn't know what you did to that car. I mean, they do know you changed the windshield, but they don't know. So they get in there and they see all these camera codes and all these things. So now it's falling back on you. So that's why I say it's um important for that. But I think the auto glass shop should do it for a safety perspective. Don't send that customer away to a third party. Or even if you take it to a third party, you're still having to transfer. You're not towing that vehicle. Um, I mean, what's your stance on the whole third party and whether we should or shouldn't change the windshield until their technician scans it, or what? What's
well,
I mean,
one of the things I love the most about our industry is there's not really a set block or a set model. It could be one guy that's been running out of a Toyota truck since the 90s, doing his thing, doing the best job he possibly can, or you have the big box companies. But I think if you're going to do third party calibration, or you're going to have somebody do a third party calibration for you, that's okay, because some people just can't afford the equipment or the software or all the stuff that's tied to maintaining and keeping your equipment current and up and running. I think it should be mandatory for any shop out there to pre-scan the vehicle, not just, most importantly, keep the customer safe, but to keep your business safe, because you don't want to release a vehicle to a customer or be put on the hook for buying a camera that you didn't damage. So it's important. And just
yeah,
like you said, you can invest in a really nice scan tool for under $1,000.
yeah. And if you choose not to get the ADAS software because you are subletting that work, but at least you're doing the initial scan and post scan showing that when I started, these were the codes, and when I ended, these were the codes. So I didn't actually cause an issue.
Yeah.
Um, so I do agree with you there. I think every shop, no matter if you're coming out of a Toyota truck or whatever, invest $1,000 in a nice scan tool to get to shore up the liability window of your company, just to make sure you're
And a
closed
good
in.
way to look at it is the majority of vehicles on currently on the road right now, barring anything unforeseen that we haven't worked on yet. But most of these vehicles, when you just take the vehicle around the block, you're going to know if there's a glass related issue before you release it. So even if the third party is doing it, just for peace of mind for you and your customer, take it for a quick drive around the block,
Mm-hmm.
drive it to the calibration shop. And if you're doing third party calibrations, one thing I would recommend is documentation, right? So, hey, if you don't mind, you're going to go to this third party shop. Can I get a copy of what they did to the vehicle? That way you can keep it with your paperwork and you can keep it current.
That's a very good that's a very good tip. I kind of see that working its way into one of our standards then, probably, wouldn't you say?
Oh yeah, almost guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean, because that's just common sense. I mean, yeah. So you have a copy, they have a copy, you're subletting it. Yeah. Everybody who is listening, Damon, our other co-creator, has joined us. So hi, Damon.
Morning, guys. How are
Morning,
you?
Uh,
Damon.
so at any point, Damon, please jump in. I know that you're a busy man with Nielsen Muller these days. So
I just go back in my truck, so I'm gonna
yeah,
partake
while he drives. Yeah.
while I make my way east.
Okay, so perfect. So at any point he needs to cut out, absolutely. So Jacques and I were just talking about the importance of having a scan tool, no matter what size your shop is, and
Yep.
having the third party paperwork coming in. Um, so Jacques,
It's
you've set
funny, and it's sorry,
no, go ahead.
it's funny. You're on that. We're seeing more and more like on AGTT people. Oh, I did this windshield, and now it won't calibrate, and I'm having problems. And I see the question always come up. Well, did you do a pre-scan on it? Right.
After I put the windshield
So,
in.
uh,
Could have
yeah.
saved yourself a lot of headache, that's for sure.
Yeah, right. Like even you, James, you called me the other day, what do you think of this? Should I do it? You know, yeah,
Oh,
you could,
yeah.
but should you? Probably not, right? When we talk about the liabilities and the safety of all these sensors in motion that work together, if one of them's out of whack, the whole system doesn't work right.
Yeah, and give a little bit of context to that story David was talking about. I went out to a 2023 Ford Explorer and the customer said there's been no body damage or anything like that. And obviously the test drive went fine. There was no issues. But when I pre-scanned it, I got like four different codes, ADAS codes related to the IPMB module in the Ford Explorer. Nothing with the A, nothing with the, but after talking to Damon, for me, that led to me just saying you need to have these addressed at the dealer before I proceed with a windshield installation because they do tie
Good call.
together. And because they do tie together, there are some things that I've just kind of like, and I was leaning that way. And I called Damon obviously because I needed the reassurance that I was doing the right thing. And obviously he told me I was doing the right thing. So that's kind of where it lied because I was already leaning that way. So yeah, I caught it before I even had the window out. So there was no need to, hey, this won't calibrate, or now I've got this code. The pre means before you put the windshield in, kind of thing, before you do anything. So
Before
And you
before it leaves
and
where the customer parked it is a
yeah,
good rule of thumb.
yeah, absolutely.
and not many people take that pre-drive, right? Like you can probably count on one or two fingers how many people will actually drive the vehicle before. So, kudos to you, James, and the people that do that before they even like. Who'd think you need to pre-drive a car before you replace a windshield, right? I mean,
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure
right?
what that's why it worked its way into our operating position procedure was I wanted to make sure before I did anything to it, what functionality they had turned on was the sheer only reason why I did it. Like I'm not gonna sit here and pound my chest and I'm this trailblazer, but for me, it's like I need to know what they have on for what they're going to expect when they pick the car up. So that's why it started for us was to the test drive beforehand, and sometimes I even do it with the customer. It just depends on how they feel about it, whatever. But even the post drive with the customer, depending on because some people don't want you driving their car, so at that point it becomes a ride along.
Yeah.
You know, um,
We
so
we would always offer the customer. We'd let them know, hey, we're going to need to drive your car as part of this service. If you like, you can drive the car and I'll ride passenger. Just this is what's going to happen. No, you're
mhm.
good. Just go ahead and drive it.
Yeah,
It's no big deal.
yeah. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm some innovator. No, absolutely not. It was sheerly for my own knowledge of what was turned on in the car, so what the customer would expect to get it back, and it just became part of our procedure because then you pull it back in. Okay, this is I know it's working, and then you pre-scan it because then that would let me know if there's any DTCs that I need to stop. Just like with the Explorer.
Super good plan, and another operating practice that, believe it or not, turned into one of our biggest warranty issues at first is when we do a windshield or even a body side calibration, we always return the vehicle to the customer with all the features turned on. So we thought we're still doing it, but you get that one person that, my car's taken over. What'd you do to my car? And we left everything on. So I would recommend everybody leaves everything on. That way they if they rely on it or they're teenagers driving the next day, you've covered all your bases.
Yeah, and we do the same thing now. Like I didn't we used to just give it back to them with what was turned on. Okay. And that's where the test drive came from. But after talking to you, Jacques, at one of the AGSC meetings, oh, it was a couple springs ago. I was in Virginia. What was that? In Virginia, not Autoglass Week, but the one prior to that, Charlottesville.
Yep.
After talking to you, I started returning them to the customer with everything on. Okay. And that is a phone call that this guy in this Toyota Tundra, he called me and he just laid into me because his lane departure drives him nuts. And it was left on. He said, I keep hitting the button, but yet it doesn't steer me back in the lane, but it still warns me when I go past the lane. And first of all, I was like, why do you want to drive over the lane? But whatever. He didn't realize that you had to push and hold the buttons on the Toyotas for 3 seconds before it fully disables the system. So I get back to the shop and I show him how to do it. And after that, he was perfectly fine. But because of talking to you and the importance of giving it back to him with everything on, that's where, and then letting them turn it off. That's why we changed that. So yeah, we do the same thing now. We never used to. What was on is what they got it back with. But now, after talking to you and your outlook on, you don't know who's driving that after them. They could have their friend picking it up, not even them. So those features are on for their safety. They can turn them off later because they are optional.
Oh yeah, and the
Um,
majority of the first-time drivers out there are born with a cell phone in their hand, heavily reliant on technology.
mhm.
So they're going to rely on those features way more than their parents probably do. So it's really, really important.
Yeah. So we're not going to talk about the whole inside outside thing. That's too much of a controversial topic. But when it comes to the three major reasons why a calibration fails, what are, in your opinion, what are the three major reasons why a calibration fails?
So we get to cheat on that one. So we do a lot of calibrations in our business footprint here and in Utah. But we also sell calibration equipment and assist people all over the country with calibrations. So when things go wrong, they call us and we track it. We just so we can build our training. And believe it or not, our number one failed calibration is because the camera is installed incorrectly in the bracket.
Yeah,
Number one.
yeah, that's why I unplug mine and put it in the windshield that's on the stand. I don't wait and leave it plugged in. I always unplug it and take it to the new windshield and make sure it fits. And this is pre-cut out because
Good. Good plan.
I have had broken brackets before.
Oh yeah.
And I caught it because of pre-cut out. Like when I'm disassembling the vehicle after protection, disassembling the vehicle, I always pull the camera down, unplug it, take it over, and make sure it fits in the because like with you, the number one thing I'm seeing is bracketry, whether it be not snapped all the way in or not aligned properly or broken tabs that you just don't catch. So yeah, go ahead with the number two. What's your number two?
Number two is a dirty camera or dirty glass. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And then hands down, number three would be the Subaru NG. Well, a lot of people can get confused with that one. What does NG mean?
Oh yeah, no good.
Means not good.
Not good. Yeah, it means your measurements are off somewhere.
Yeah,
Something's off
or
somewhere.
lighting or
Yes, lighting. Yeah.
and one thing people don't realize or think about with the Subarus is the way those eyesight cameras work is they turn that bizarre target into a solid, into solid images. So if you've got an older Subaru Target where maybe it's sun faded, damaged, worn down from putting it in a rack, you might just need to replace your target.
So when you said that, you know what I thought of? Do you remember mall rats?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's a fucking sailboat.
That one's going to be burned in my head forever.
Because it takes all those
So on that
pixelations.
on that on that NG, you you get that message right, and then you hit OK, perform correction, and then it shoots again, and you get a good reading. What's your take on that?
Could be a multitude of things. Could be with the way the lighting was on the camera at that minute, maybe the sun coming through your shop window. But if you're constantly getting a low percentage, then I would go ahead. Constantly getting a low percentage or frequent NG, then I would recommend replacing the target with a new one. You've just worn it out.
Because I just helped a customer the other day on a 2020 Forester, and we got an NG. James is the OG. We got an NG, and my practice was to always go through that first one and then hit it again. And we got a 90%. And then he did his drive 20, 30 minutes and he got, the other thing with the Subarus is, that number, this is the number and the F,
Letter.
right?
Yeah,
Zero,
yeah.
one.
Uh-huh.
So when I first started doing Subarus, I was told you just got to drive till you get a number and a letter. But the Autel, you can get a number and a letter and it asks you, are you good? You can say, yeah. But like with the launch, you have to have that number and that letter. So that Subaru performs that check of the system every time until it gets to that function, right? So every time the car gets cycled, it does that. What's your thought on that?
It does that because of the wear and tear on the camera. Just
Yeah.
like I can't, you don't wear glasses, but I definitely do, and I'm on trifocals now. So as humans get older and as vehicles get older, it takes a little while, right? Might need a better prescription, might need a second try to get it and to see what your surroundings
Yeah.
are. One thing people forget with
Oh, and I
all
wear
these,
glasses. I,
oh, he froze.
He froze.
Well, one thing people forget with all
oh,
these cars
sorry.
is the wear and tear on the vehicle. It wears out just like everything else. So the older they get, the more effort you're going to have to put forth to maintaining your equipment, and checking out that camera to make sure that it's still usable.
Okay, in saying that, with the wear and tear over time, everything's good. You replace the windshield, everything seems good, but you're failing the calibration. Suspension sag. Would that be an issue at any point? Spring sag, suspension sag, you get that, because the car's not sitting exactly where it was, but still drivable. Everything's functioning correctly. The When's that going to become a headache for us?
No, I mean, it's already a headache for us on the body side calibration front. So yeah, that's all stuff we're gonna have to pay attention to and know how to correct it.
Yeah, and
And
that
you
would
might come to a point where the camera may not be completely worn out, but it doesn't have the life it used to, where you might have to replace the camera in situations like that.
So I was just going to say that because you'd have to measure for that. But I know as far as photography, a camera is only good for so many shutter clicks, and
Yep.
then you got to replace it. And we're kind of seeing the same thing with the cameras. And I get it; it's not a video camera; it's an actual shutter camera, an actual still. But even with video cameras, they're only good for so many images,
Oh,
and
oh
then
yeah.
things that. So, what is the typical lifespan on a camera?
It really varies on how that vehicle's cared for. Is it parked outside? Is like here in California, we have had, I think, 7 or 8 days above 100 degrees. So if you're parking that car outside, that
Mm-hmm.
camera's not going to live as long as the one that never leaves the garage during the week. So there's so many variables. It really depends on how it's kept and cared for.
Okay, let's talk about that heat for a second in the inside of a camera. So the inside of the camera is a processing module that is put together through electrical circuits that are soldered together and silicone around them. The heat will break down the silicone, allowing the electrical current not to flow as smoothly, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And actually, we here at our home base in Modesto, we love science, probably to almost a mentally ill level. And my company vehicle is always the science vehicle.
Yeah.
So me and one of my calibration techs, Jose, we actually drove my car from Modesto to Los Angeles, which is about a 6.5 hour drive if you're following the speed limit, with repair resin over the camera's viewport. By the time we got to Los Angeles, that camera was so hot that you couldn't even touch it. Um, so we like to test stuff like that because it's going to happen. If you put in a distorted part, you put in a part with a bad bracket, that camera's working harder than it's used to. So that on top of the elements, the outside heat, it's going to greatly affect the lifespan of the camera. And that same vehicle that we did that with, when it went, we were on our third or fourth day of over 100, which the surface of the glass probably easily 120, 130. Turned on my car. I had every blinking light you could possibly imagine. We do a scan. The camera's actually dead. So we wore out the camera, and the heat was the last leg.
Mm.
We're actually in the middle of an experiment right now with that same vehicle, where we took a camera off, same camera off of another company vehicle. And normally they're plug and play, right? But you can only use them per one vehicle because
Hmm.
they're programmed to that vehicle.
Yep.
So we're testing a camera right now that was programmed to another vehicle, and it's crazy. When you first turn on the ignition in the morning, it says, service front camera. But as the day progresses and the surface of the glass gets harder, the internal workings of the camera gets hotter. When you do about maybe 5-10 keystrokes, the camera functions absolutely perfect. So there's still so much the great unknown that we don't know about this stuff, but
Yeah,
we're
because
trying every single day to learn as much as we can.
yeah, because the processor will heat up so much that it's not sending the exact electrical currents programmed to the VIN number for the ECM that's inside that car, and after it's actually gotten so hot that that processor is just sending out the signal. It's not even it's the ECM's just reading it that it's the normal camera because of the fact that it's not coming in the exact, like, I guess, car Morse code, you want to say, as it
Yeah,
should be for that.
good way of framing that. Yeah,
Yeah, for that ECM. So I think that those I love the science part of it too. I think that's cool. Like my one friend was like, so we've been having a discussion. Um, do to calibrate an electrical vehicle, does the battery have to be fully charged? And everybody's kind of like laughing and stuff. Like, yeah, electron carries matter, 100%. It carries weight. So even though it's not a bunch, it could be the difference between, especially a battery that large, it could be a difference between an eighth of a tank of gasoline. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't weigh as much as a liquid. Obviously, we know that. We know electron doesn't carry that kind of weight. You know what I mean? But it still carries a weight. That's why your power tool seems to get a little bit lighter throughout the day. Not that you're getting, but you're using a little bit more of the electricity stored in that battery, so it's not as heavy. So yeah, it would absolutely matter that your car is charged or not all the way. At some point, they're not that precise yet, but
yeah.
as we move to fully autonomous, it will have to be that precise.
I could see the Tesla delivery vehicles, the full size ones.
Mm-hmm.
I could see in the future that probably being a factor in that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it does, even though it's minute amount of weight, electron does carry weight. And it's kind of funny just to go back and forth of that just a little bit. Like, obviously, it doesn't matter right now, but it will in the future,
Yeah,
you know?
chewing gum for
My
your brain.
Yeah, right?
my my previous employer, I was in the auto body side of things, doing internal calibrations for a collision center. I used to get to the, oh, this car's ready. Can you come calibrate? And I get there, there's body panels off of it or parts missing. Well, just can you calibrate it? No, no, I can't.
No, I
Right?
can't.
I'm not gonna calibrate the car with the back bumper missing or a door off or the back glass out of it. Well, just we need to get it done. The glass guy's coming right now. Well, you're gonna have to wait because I'm not gonna. It doesn't say in anywhere where it's okay to do it without a body part missing. It's got to be the way it came off the showroom floor or the manufacturer line.
Yeah, to any glass guy out there that's contemplating making the jump to calibrating body side, um, uh, you the hardest part about that is training your local body shops, what you need to get that done properly. You got to be really, really good at breaking hearts. Like, I realize you've been doing this for 25 years, but you got to replace that bracket, man. Can't reuse the
Yeah.
collision bracket. So it's challenging, but part of our world and a great source of revenue and a nice business to be in. And I think eventually we're going to see even the bigger companies mutate and grow into being able to service all that, because we're seeing more and more sensor fusion. So I think that's going to
Mhm.
become a part of life for all of us.
So with
And
sensor
a lot of and
fusion,
a lot of
go ahead, Damon.
good.
No, you go ahead,
I was
buddy.
just saying a lot of these bigger collision centers, the calibers where I come from, and even some of the ones that are up and coming, they're integrating their own glass companies, their own calibration companies. They're keeping it all in house, right? Because they they see those dollar signs that they can make off of providing those services internally.
Oh yeah, and not really just dollar signs. It's the pressure from insurance providers to get the vehicle out and back on the road because they don't want to pay the extra for
Yeah.
the car rental. So it's all these factors. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, the
Yep.
weight of that falls on, who's ever doing the work, the glass guy that's coming into the body shop, the calibration guy. So we all have to be just a little bit better at what we do.
Yeah, the
Yes,
last
sir.
guy, the last calibration event is the person responsible for it. So with the sensor fusion and the body shops, like what you're talking about, let's say one of our listeners is on that fence. Um, one of my questions is we all know that in the in the auto glass world that they can't replicate OE paint because they can't bake it. You know what I mean? So that's why you have to start with the E coat when you start prepping your part. You have to make sure it's at the E coat, and then you can prep per our urethane manufacturers with sensor fusion. How important is paint thickness when it comes to body shops? Like they have to match that, right, to the OE, or if they go thicker, if their painter goes thicker or something, does that throw that sensor off that's reading through that panel?
Oh yeah, and it can be again the cannot over the importance of a post drive after the vehicle's done, because some of them, even if the paint's off, some of them will still calibrate. So if you're not testing that and then doing your post scan after your test drive, you'd probably never catch it. But yeah, that's a pretty big factor.
Yeah. Yeah. I think,
The other thing too is repairs, right? Like, oh, that back corner was just damaged and we did some repairs there. So if they do any buildup of any material, like a bondo
yeah.
or they do some kind of repair in that area, the SIs will have an area that you cannot or should not do any repairs in, and they recommend you replace the bumper. Well, they go the cheap route, just make that repair and calibrate. Then they're pissed off that they went through all that motion and now they have to put a new bumper on it to paint it
Oh
and
yeah,
start it over.
two big headaches for us are plastic welds. If they do plastic welds over,
Yeah.
that's a deal breaker. You got to buy a new bumper, and then believe it or not, wraps.
Mm,
Where I'm located in Modesto, California, it's a huge car culture, and so we get a lot of wrapped vehicles, and that'll make ultrasonic sensors and parking sensors malfunction as well. So we have to be on top of our game for just about everything.
The other thing I see too is Toyota emblems on the front. People will do that spray tint on it or put a film on it after they put the car back together. Like we didn't do any repairs on that. I know, but you unplugged it. It's still got to be calibrated, but it's not going to calibrate because of that layer. So
Oh yeah.
can't do it.
So how important for the aftermarket is it becoming to make sure that their parts are correct? Are we leaning hard enough in as an industry to demand better parts in the aftermarket? Are they stepping up?
I strongly believe so. You're going to get a bunch of hate mail from me saying this, but like Benson and XYG, I
Mm-hmm.
know they're working endlessly, tirelessly to make their parts better or completely equal to the OE. And we've had like well, I shouldn't throw shade on any particular brand, but we've
Mm-hmm.
had some where we had to do company-wide bans on particular parts.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's mission critical for them there, and I think they're realizing that they have to be better at what they do. I know Benson and XYG have invested heavily in equipment to test all their parts versus the OE. So to answer your question, yes, the heat's on for everybody, and I'm going to assume any aftermarket body side parts as well. They're going to have to step up their game.
Yeah, Damon, as Nielsen and Moeller, um, are you guys leaning in on making sure? I mean, obviously you are, but I want to hear it from you.
Yeah,
Making sure that your parts are
yeah,
up to snuff.
yeah. So just like with FYG, you got two different DOTs, right? You can tell a difference in quality. We're a different DOT than what you get in an XYG label class, and the machinery and the equipment that they have to manufacture our product is by far superior. And I told you, James, that first day I walked into the warehouse and saw the glass, and I've even had several customers already in my couple of days say, "Man, this glass is so much clearer and it looks so much nicer looking through it than some of the other stuff that we've put in." We've had very few issues with anything not calibrating. All the brackets are laser guided, placed to test. So, and the good thing about us here is, and not to make this a plug, but we have a direct line to the manufacturer, and that's where I'm going to come in. If something doesn't calibrate, there's an issue, I'm on it and we fix it.
That's
It's just
reassuring to hear.
It's just as simple as that, right? So as we grow and we get bigger, we produce more parts. It's going to get better for everybody. So yes, our the quality of our glass, I think, is, and saying this from doing this a long time, I think it's far superior than some of the other stuff that's out there.
Well, I also think that our industry needs to hear that. Like Jacques said, that's reassuring. Like I said it on the last show with Holly and them that I just did, is a lot of times in our industry, we forget there's people behind making this or machinery behind making this, people that care just as much as we do. They don't want to put out the crappy parts, even though they are, and it's hard to get changed. I want to see that communication between the manufacturer and the customer branched. If we have a complaint, we need to have a way to get a hold of somebody that can run it up the flagpole to get results, because I think that there's that river that we need to ford as an industry that we haven't been able to before. You had the parts manufacturer and you just had to deal with it. You dealt with what you got. And I think that it's reassuring to hear that there may be some light at the end of the tunnel to where we can communicate our issues to them.
Well, for sure. And I know from what we do, we have a direct line with Benson's engineering team and XYG's engineering team. So whenever we run into a problem, we're able to handle it in real time with an app called WeChat, where we can send them videos. Hey, this is why it's not calibrating, and they've been very responsive. So it's kind of a cool thing. Our industry is changing. It used to be you could just depend on one particular. Don't put in that brand because it's going to be bad, and I think that's changing.
Yeah, and
we have that's the same communication we have that you're talking about with the manufacturer. Just, hey, this is what we got. This is what we need to fix. Like I had a Forester, and the wiper wires that came off weren't quite long enough to pop it back into that little nub. So I just sent a couple pictures and notes to who I needed to, and we'll get it taken care of.
Well, and both of you, that's reassuring to hear that we have experts in our field that know our business and have done our business and know what we're looking for to communicate with these manufacturers. We don't have that middleman that's never been in the glass industry before. We have two proven field vets getting information back to our main suppliers, our main manufacturers of our glass. That's pretty awesome. And I think a lot of people be reassured is what I want to say, to hear that. Because a lot of times they're like, no, they ain't listening. It's always bad. It's going to be bad. Well, now we know that we have guys that, or I'm telling my salesman, but he's never installed a piece of glass, so he doesn't know you're talking about a wiper lead. You know what I mean? But whereas Damon and Jacques, you guys know, Jacques in there like, hey, this isn't calibrating and this is why. We have the experts now talking to these companies. That is actually, it makes me feel better as a technician that we have that ability. So I really like hearing that.
Pretty amazing and dark story. So we have, in my opinion, and he won the competition, so it was official. I have one of the best calibration technicians in the world, Jose Gomez. He won the competition a couple of years ago. He's done more calibrations than probably the majority of the people in the US right now. And about a month ago, he was doing a calibration on a brand new Ford F-350, done it 100 million times. He had to look down at his tablet, looked up. When he looked up, he rear-ended a vehicle. The way the collision happened is it breached the frame, so that truck was a total loss. So our company was on the hook for a $110,000 truck that we had to buy. And we're not even done with whomever he hit, right? So
Mhm.
very, very expensive mistake. And the way most companies, you just everybody would have to take our shoelaces away, right? But we looked at it as an opportunity. So what we did is we met as a core group. An up and coming glass guy, you're going to hear a lot about him in the future. Tyler Manuel came up with, hey, why can't we have voice alerts on the tablet so the guys don't have to look down? So like, hey, that's a cool idea. Why didn't we think of that before? So later that day, we got on the phone with Launch's engineering team and told them what we needed. 48 hours later, we're testing beta software. So
Ah,
little by little, we're fixing the industry's problems, right? So just because you've had a catastrophic loss and all hope seems lost, there's always light at the end of the tunnel to move on and correct that. So in the future, upcoming updates on your launch tablet, you won't have to look down anymore. So all of us behind the scenes, and I don't think a lot of people know um, how much work and effort goes into it, but we're trying to correct the things that make people hate their days, the things that could ruin a small business. We're trying really hard to correct all those things. So if you're just one thing that I dislike about the industry is the guys that sit back and just say, that's crappy, that's stupid, or whatever. Like, put that energy towards correcting issues, into helping the industry fix problems. And you know what? We would be um, miles ahead of other industries in the automotive field if we could all learn to focus and work together.
yeah. Instead of just complaining, come forward with a solution. And even if that solution might not help it, it's still a solution that you have in your head, and you're putting your energy towards solving the problem instead of bitching about the problem.
Exactly. And you guys do a great deal for the industry by this podcast and everything that each of you do when you're representing your personal brand in the industry, when you're just out in the streets, right? So find that person, find that point of contact that can make a difference. So if you're sitting in your car doing a calibration, I wish this tablet could do this, or reach out to somebody. Odds are you can probably find someone that can make that happen for you. The
Yeah.
possibilities are endless.
Well, yeah, we're seeing it every day
And
with our
I think
phones.
I think that on the other end of that, a lot of, it's awesome that Launch would listen to you, right? You guys obviously have a great relationship with them, but some of these manufacturers are just happy and fit with the way their things are. They don't, if the person wants to offer that solution, but the where that solution goes, if they don't want to take it to heart and make the repairs or fix the problem, then you know, I think that that's an issue too, right? Like it has to happen at both ends.
Oh yeah, and if you find that the equipment you've purchased or the glass you're getting, nothing ever changes and it's just continued bad experience, then I would perhaps rethink, who you're giving your money to.
Yeah.
And we have a whole separate entity with ADAS, and we have some things coming down the line that we really want to do because we care and we want people to be better and to provide the services to our customers. So, it's all about caring.
So
Oh yeah.
Jacques, are you seeing that out of the manufacturers now? Because I know for a couple of years we fought to even get the manufacturers of these tools in our ADAS committees to help us. Are you seeing more participation now from these tool manufacturers?
Yes. I don't want Deb Levy to beat me up, but we'll be making some announcements yeah, at Autoglass Week that I think will surprise and shock everybody. But yeah, we're seeing some participation, and but the way we see, I think, not only Autoglass Week but the Autoglass Safety Council, you're going to see a lot more engagement from everybody that we give our money to. So
Yeah, I hope so.
cool stuff coming.
I hope there's more people willing to jump up and join these committees, these boards, even if you're just curious, sit
And I
in, listen.
I don't. This probably isn't. I won't throw a zinger out there like James Chapman does when we have these shows. But I want to ask you, Jacques. We threw this out to Deb when she was on this show. I guess I did. the thing with I'm a firm believer in the Autoglass Safety Council. I've always done it right, the way it should be done. Self-admittingly, I never paid to be a member. So what do you say to the naysayers? Like, oh, I do the job right. I don't need to pay it into that. Like now your position in the council, what's your outlook on that, or what's your view on that?
So first and foremost, as president, part of my job moving forward is to make the AGSC and AGSC membership more appealing to people. So my view is we need to work a little bit harder to give our members value, which we have some pretty solid things. It actually shocked me. I'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but as soon as I was elected president, the first thing Deb Levy phone call after the election and all, and she said, write down 3 of your goals. So I thought about it. It took me about probably over a month. Goals just from things I hear. I'm a tireless fan of the industry, a student of the industry. Like, for example, when I was in a truck, I took notes. I still have all of them for every vehicle I worked on. Like that cowl stunk, or that was hard. How did I handle this rust? Even took notes on leadership styles. I had, good managers and bad managers. So I like to think I know the industry pretty well. So it's up to me to make membership appealing and have some value. So I think you're going to see a lot of movement in the future, helping smaller companies that don't really have that big box budget for marketing, giving them marketing materials that will help. One thing that drives me crazy is when you're reading on the Facebook groups and across the board, why do you need a certification? It's just a piece of paper. If you're saying that, probably the piece of paper you're looking for is a business degree. A certification isn't gonna help you, right? The certification is to verify your knowledge, to help you become a better technician, to make your installation safer, to cut back on your casualty losses. That's what a certification is for. Something you should be extremely proud of the accomplishment and hang on your wall. So it's up to me and the rest of my team to help build stuff that just add value. And I think I don't want to spoil anything, but I think we've got a pretty good game plan to increase that value to members.
That's refreshing to hear for
that's
the
awesome.
for the Autoglass Safety Council, because I'm sure I've beat a dead horse here enough to tell everybody knows that I'm a firm believer in it, and I have been for a long time, all the way from the NGA days.
Thank you.
And that's more of a personal, like, I'm certified. I mean something. I'm a professional. I've taken the time to invest in myself, even though it's just a piece of paper on the wall and I can't really market it. It doesn't matter. It means that I've invested in myself to be a professional. That's the same reason why that degree doesn't really mean something on someone's wall that they went to college, except for what they did. They went to college, so that means something to them. It might help get a job here or there, but in the same sense, it doesn't. The certification is more for yourself. You can market those. I 100% agree with that. But it means more that you've invested in yourself to keep the community that you service safe, because you've taken the time to acquire the knowledge.
And vehicles are changing rapidly. We're seeing stuff on vehicles that even 5 years ago we never thought we'd see. So that certification, that membership helps you and your business keep your skill set modern, right? Where a lot of glass companies fail and continue to fail even today is they stop modernizing their workforce. They stop modernizing their knowledge base.
Yep.
So one of the key things I would like to do is keep the AGSC and all of its members 10 steps ahead, even the 10 steps ahead of even the bigger companies out there. We're not as big, so we don't have to do a U-turn in a battleship, right?
Yep.
We're small, so we can do that U-turn relatively quickly. Where they're going to have to meet and go through the process so we can move faster. So keeping the knowledge base up, keeping your business modernized, future proof.
Yeah. Well, like Gary Hart was saying in the one Autoglass University, was I don't know if it was a new BMW or a new Mercedes. They're having this projection screen across the bottom of the whole windshield, right? And it's coming out relatively shortly. I think it's 26 or 27. The first guy that sprays down in there with an alkalizer to take a just going to soak all that equipment that's down underneath the dash. You know what I mean? Like to cut it out with an express instead of actually taking the time to learn how that is put together and how it should come apart. And you know, so on that, one of the things I would like to see as an Autoglass Safety Council person and a member is I would like to see more access, almost like an all data for our technicians when they hit that car. They can have an easily accessible, our membership, easily accessible, whether that's an app, whether it's a quick jaunt on a website to go to figure out like no goes on this car. Don't do this or this, or do this or this. Because right now your go-to is the Facebook.
Yeah.
Okay. And to add appeal to our membership, it could be like an all data app based technician. You have it on your phone. You're part of you have to have login credentials. So do you know you're a member of the AGSC? You log in, you type in Ford F350 2022, even if it's a drop down menu, kind of like on the new Smart Safe. Okay. And it says, these are the things you need to watch out for in this windshield. These are things techs have experienced on this windshield. Or this is something that you might have, or maybe not a detailed in step, but to keep our technicians on the forefront of things coming out. Like, hey, there's been a recall on this vehicle. Do you know that? It's
Yeah.
for it's for windshield
TSBs and all
retention.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
TSBs and all kinds of stuff
Yeah.
like that. I
Yeah.
don't know what that would take. I don't know, but as far as a
I,
member and what I would like to see, that's something I would like to see done.
I do, and I took notes, and I'll see what I can do.
Yeah. But you see what I mean, though. I mean that adds appeal to the reason for our yearly subscription, if you want to call it. Would be my technicians can jump on this, and it says, "Hey, to reinitialize this anti-pinch, you do this." You know what I mean?
That's a great idea.
I mean, that's just something in my head.
And
So
like Dave, right? Autoglass Helpline doing his videos, and is it Raul does his videos, right? Like just things you come across, maybe link them to that, or you
mhm.
know what I mean? Like if everybody's, you can go link and like James said, type in whatever, and then, oh, hey, look at this video or that video, right? Like, because everybody's going to have different experiences. But yeah, that's a great idea.
So
Yeah, shameless plug, taking off my AGSC hat. Um, one of my companies, frogitout.com, is hopefully by the time Autoglass Week is up and going, we have a new feature on our website we called Frogbuster. We shamelessly stole the Blockbuster logo.
nice.
We're going to have a series of videos that you can rent for $1 or $2 for what you're struggling with. Calibration based, installation based, just a silly short video that helps you through that problem. But I like the idea of our members having a resource for that, or even getting a discount for stuff like that. That's a great idea.
Could we tie that to continuing education so guys don't have to continually test after they take their initial test? They can just do the continuing education following the Frogbuster videos or the app, and then you watch a video, kind of like in the nursing field. You watch a video and then you take a little 5-question test, and then that helps you maintain your certification without having to retest. Because I
Good
know I've
idea.
had to retest it every year, but there's supposedly this continuing education where you get these credentials, and I've sat through the classes at Autoglass Week and got my credentialing and everything and still retested. Um, so I mean, you have the Frogbuster, and then you have Frogbuster Elite to help train for the master certification test.
Good idea.
I mean, I'm just throwing things at the wall. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up here in a few minutes, guys. But I have to something I've been thinking about, Jacques, and I have to throw it at you. Okay, so everybody at Air Pro, please bear with me on this one. Okay, so the Air Pro is the digital whatever. Okay,
Uh-huh.
how far off are we from them putting the car on a dyno and then putting that up there, and then that's your dynamic? It throws the road signs, it throws the lines on the road at the camera, but the wheels are moving, so the car senses that it's moving down the road because it's on the dyno. You know what I mean? How futuristic is that? Is that something that could potentially be?
Uh, I don't think so, because that would be too much of a good thing, too much of a controlled environment,
Yeah.
to where that like we talked about earlier, as these cameras age, um, it takes a little bit more effort to get them calibrated. So I personally would not be a supporter of that, because I think you could possibly get some false positives.
Yeah,
Um,
I would
on
just
the AirPro thing, those guys are very open to suggestions, and what they've done with their equipment, they've done a lot of wonderful things. Everybody says refresh rate. So I took them to task on it. So what we did is we added a timer to push the refresh rate back so that pixel has time to grow into a solid target. So we fixed that. And as far as everybody talks about ride height and environment, they added in software where you're measuring the wheelbase, so it's accommodating for that, and it can adjust the target, which makes it. Everybody's going to throw rocks at me, but it makes it, in some cases, a more accurate calibration than when you're putting targets in front of it, because that target's adjusting. Where when you've got a fixed stand, so there's a lot of cool stuff out there. That's going to change the game for everybody. I know Launch is working on a lot of really great stuff. So there's too much good stuff to talk about, I
too
guess.
much good stuff to talk about. So at when you can announce the stuff after Autoglass week and everything, I want to have you back on. We want to have another discussion, but I am wrapping this up. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on. It's
Hey, my
always a
pleasure.
pleasure. Always
Yes.
a pleasure to talk to you, Jacques. It really is. You're a student of our game, and it shows. And thank you for everything you do. Damon, thank you for joining us and everything you do.
Always. It's been
Any
a minute.
parting, yeah, any parting words, guys?
I look forward to seeing all of you at Autoglass Week. It'd be neat to see everybody in person. We're going to see a lot of new faces this year, people that haven't come to the show. So it's going to be a good one. So I hope to see all you guys out there.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I went. The last one I went to was, I think, and it was like in Minneapolis in the mid to late 2000s. So it's been quite a few years since I've been. I'm super excited to be back and do my demo and get to meet a lot of people. So in my position I'm in now, I'm really excited to be part of it.
And yeah, we're doing a members. Deb will probably yell at me for saying this. We're doing a members meeting on the Thursday of Autoglass Week at the Ice Bar. We're actually giving away an entire calibration frame and tablet fully loaded with ADS software and training and certification to members. We'll have a raffle. Non-members can pay to get in, but it's going to be quite a gathering. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Awesome.
So obviously I'll be there. So thank you guys. It's been wonderful. And hold on one second, guys.